So switching gears to another topic in the work, the running back room. You had a lot. Your sources had a lot to say about Marty Brown, CharMar Brown, the transfer from North Dakota State that, quite frankly, I think was probably the biggest get of the portal, not in terms of impact, but just like I didn't expect us to get that one done for a starting caliber 1,000-yard rusher to be, in a 3 running back rotation. That's hard to do. Usually you get guys that haven't played or guys that are being promised the number 1 spot. So this is a huge recruiting victory. It sounds like he's got people excited.
Yeah, and I think just in general, you just have to think that Miami is, even though we understand Carson Beck can sling it around, like we have to expect them to run the ball more than they did last year, right? Especially probably leaning on the run game when they're up in games, right? So there's probably going to be more carries to go around, and he's pushing. I think there's people who believe. I don't want to say that there's people that there are, but it's more like the way he's carrying himself around the building is he's not here to be a guy. And you see it, like, in these pictures, how he's looking in these workouts. Like he came here understanding what his role was coming in, but at the same time, this staff, I think, is giving him a real opportunity here to seize some snaps here. We saw what AJ Allen did in a limited role last year. I think he had like 54 carries. I was looking at it. I think the note I made here is I think there's a chance that this guy can push for 100 carries this season, right? And that's double of what AJ Allen got last year. But that's how I see it shaking out with these 3 guys.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a great room. You see our boy Florida boy Corey saying best running back trio in the country. Obviously duos. You go back to Singleton and Allen up in Penn State. They're pretty proven. I know that Notre Dame, they got some guys on top of Jeremiah Love, who's the most explosive of all these guys we're talking about. But yeah, when your third running back is someone who ran for 1,000 yards last year, yeah, FCS, but you're talking about North Dakota State, the national champs that produce pros all the time. He won the FCS Freshman of the Year, which is an award that's been won by a ton of future pros, whether it's Terrence West at Chase Edmonds as NFL running backs, Cam Ward, Shador Sanders, Trey Lance. So these are all guys that have been pros that have won that Freshman of the Year award. So when you have this guy as your third back, I don't know if you're top 2, and we'll see what Jordan Lyle does. I think Jordan Lyle has a chance to really show people some things, but I don't know if your top 2 is Allen and Singleton, certainly not in terms of what's been proven necessarily. But when you add this guy to the mix, I think you're talking about one of the best trios in the country. And there you see the thighs. I know we had a long thigh discussion yesterday talking about with the show on Mike, talking about Sabrina Carpenter, Tate McRae, and Marty Brown. So the thighs are there. Not to mention, you look at the other guys in the workouts. I mean, Fletcher. You see how big this dude is. He looks like a linebacker.
Yeah.
And then Jordan Lyle, the underrated size with Jordan Lyle.
I think Lyle gives you that speed, man. Lyle gives you that he's the close. He has that game breaking speed. We saw it against South Florida in that game, right? But that's probably when you talk about what is the one thing that could hold this group back from being like great is can Lyle be that guy to bust those consistently 40, 50 plus yard runs that can change the course of a game.
100%. I think he's got a lot of that ability. You look at Gerard Pringle's kind of a change of pace. I don't think he's going to be getting the carries that these top 3 guys. There's a question from Brandon, but it's a change of pace.
He came on late.
He barely practiced this spring for various reasons. Nothing, that's going to impact him down the road. But when he played in the spring game, which was full contact, that was his best game. So that's a good sign. You look at Nick Isaac, a good point he's saying, which is, due to our defense, we were playing catch up a lot. We were in shootouts. We couldn't just bleed teams with the running game. FSU, we were able to do that. Some other teams' games, but even though our running game was extremely efficient and effective and one of the best in the country, really, when you look at per carry, it wasn't. We had no chance to just dominate with it because we never got any stops. So that's something you could see this year for sure. I think one thing I'd like to see is, I'm going to make a post about this, Pete. I want to know what your thoughts are. now that we have Marty Brown, which again, I didn't expect us to get a guy like this. I was wrong about that. I thought it would be very, very difficult to get another running
Me
back.
too. Me too.
And look, Marty Brown almost went to Cal. He almost went to Nebraska. I think he had a crystal ball to both places. So it wasn't like, this was a thin win, but they got it done. So I would say, given what we have now, I went back and watched a lot of film. I see Elijah Lofton playing fullback and being very effective at it. I see in the NFL, the Dolphins, the Niners, the Ravens, three of the most innovative offenses in the world. I believe all three of those use the fullback extensively. Relative, 25%, which for NFL, that's a abnormally high number for recent years. I would love to see Mark Fletcher and Lofton both getting some work at fullback. Just use more fullbacks because you have guys that have such size and impact power that you put them at fullback and they can do all the things that your traditional fullbacks, the guys like Alec Ingold, the guys in the pros, Juszczyk, what's the name of the guy, Ricard for the Ravens, they can do all those same things because of their size and the fact that they like to strike people, but then they can run too. So you have more versatility with those guys. You get more of your best players on the field at once. So that's something that I don't know is going to happen. I haven't seen, we'll see now here in camp. That's something I would like to see more of because we have unique personnel with a Fletcher and a Lofton size-wise. And then, of course, you still have size in the backfield if Marty Brown's getting more carries and, of course, Jordan Lyles. So that's one thing. I went back and watched a lot of running back film yesterday, just randomly. Just wanted to get a feel for all these guys we prepare for the season. And that was one of my big takeaways. And Marty Brown playing a big role, as you say, in the work, that has a lot to do with that and to help that along. But switching sides, Pete, to the other side.
I was just going to say one more thing on Brown. My biggest takeaway really wasn't even just about this year, but because he's a guy with multiple years of eligibility, and I think he made the decision to transfer here with that in mind. He understood that this was going to be a multiple year thing for him, right? And he didn't want to go one place and transfer just because he wasn't the featured back this year. And I get the sense that they think he could be like one of the guys next year, like one of the main ball. Like he's going to be involved this year, but maybe the one or two next year, depending on Lyle. Hope is going to still be here, but that's I think what they're seeing a long-term sort of play with him.
Absolutely. So before we transition,